Moving outside, the scene shifts to Roman engrossed in training. At this moment, a stranger approaches, extending a greeting to Roman. Roman found himself face to face with a man named Makin. To Roman's surprise, Makin hailed from Valhalla's intelligence department, but his attire bore the insignia of Dimitry's staff uniform. A surge of anger coursed through Roman as he questioned Makin about his unexpected appearance, considering that Roman had already communicated through the Dinvar family a few days earlier. Makin, seemingly aware of the tension, swiftly apologized for the abrupt intrusion, explaining that the circumstances had compelled him to take formal action. He reassured Roman that this encounter reflected Valhalla's genuine sentiments. Acknowledging the complexities surrounding Roman, such as his nationality and the challenge of leaving Dimitry, Makin extended an intriguing proposition. He offered Roman a title of his own and an iron mine, coupled with a fertile territory. This, Makin explained, would enable Roman to continue his role as a blacksmith while addressing the pressing concerns of his family's survival. Roman grappled with the unconventional nature of the offer, contemplating the potential benefits against the backdrop of his family's well-being. The weight of responsibility pressed upon him as he considered the implications of aligning himself with Valhalla. Makin, sensing Roman's internal struggle, emphasized the paramount importance of power for a swordsman. To sweeten the deal, Makin revealed that Valhalla would grant Roman access to their Class 1 treasury, a repository of invaluable records encompassing mind methods and sword arts passed down through generations. These records, meticulously classified based on their content, held the key to ancient knowledge. Roman, taken aback by the extent of Valhalla's offer, absorbed the information. The mention of the Class 1 treasury, which housed special records of the highest grade, intrigued him. Valhalla, it seemed, guarded the secrets of mind methods and sword arts, preserving the wisdom of their ancestors. This revelation added a layer of complexity to Makin's proposal, enticing Roman with the allure of unparalleled knowledge. Makin, delving into Valhalla's ambitious vision, spoke of conquering the entire continent and establishing themselves as the sole empire. Remaining in the kingdom of Cairo, Makin argued, was a strategic shortcut to hastening this grand objective. The prospect of Roman contributing to Valhalla's ascent stirred the air with a sense of destiny, a destiny intertwined with the rise of an empire. As Makin painted this grand narrative, he appealed to Roman's sense of purpose, urging him to stand by Valhalla. The promise of a glorious future for Roman lay in aligning himself with this powerful force. Makin believed that, with secure compensation and a calculated amount of intimidation, Roman could navigate this path with both benefit and security. A man of discernment would typically find it challenging to reject the proposal laid before him by Makin, but Roman stood firm in his refusal. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Makin, the proposer, registered his shock at the unexpected turn of events. As the air hung heavy with anticipation, Roman felt compelled to elucidate the rationale behind his seemingly contrarian choice. It was not, as one might assume, a matter of Valhalla's insufficient compensation or a wavering loyalty to his homeland that prompted Roman's dissent. In a moment of candor, Roman unveiled the complex tapestry of considerations weaving through his mind. He spoke of a surge in proposals, each seemingly designed to elevate his standing without requiring a commitment. This abundance of attention, however, mirrored the intricate political dance within the kingdom of Cairo. Influential figures, including the kingdom's royal knights, Marquis Benedict, Count Gregory, and Count Denver, sought to secure Roman's allegiance. What appeared as a straightforward decision was, in reality, a labyrinthine negotiation. Roman elucidated the intricacies of his predicament, illustrating the delicate balance he needed to strike amid the power plays of the kingdom. Pledging allegiance wasn't a mere formality, it was a calculated move with far-reaching consequences. The kingdom's political landscape resembled a chessboard, and Roman, the reluctant pawn, had to tread cautiously. He confessed to Makin that he found himself at a crossroads, not solely due to the influx of proposals but also because he sought to discern what was genuinely worth risking his life for. The multifaceted nature of the political machinations in the kingdom demanded a thoughtful and measured response. It wasn't a matter of mere proposals, it was a soul-searching journey for Roman. In an attempt to convey his commitment and loyalty, Roman explained that the appearance of difficulty in swearing allegiance was essential. It was a carefully choreographed act to convince Makin and others of his unwavering dedication. Makin, moved by the intentional display, began to comprehend the depth of Roman's internal struggle. Acknowledging the urgency of the situation, Makin cautioned Roman about the limitations of time. The volatile political climate in Valhalla required swift decisions, and delay could prove costly. With a gentle yet firm tone, Macon implored Roman to be cautious not to let the sands of time slip through his fingers. Roman, understanding the gravity of the situation, assured Macon that he would provide an answer within the stipulated time frame. As Macon prepared to depart, he turned back, a glint of intrigue in his eyes. A parting gift, a symbolic gesture of the relationship blossoming between Roman and Valhalla, was promised. The enigmatic warning about the southern front, akin to a ticking bomb, lingered in the air, leaving Roman with a heightened sense of vigilance. Transitioning to the opulent halls of the Dimitry Palace, Roman bid his father farewell. The weight of his duty and national defense rested heavily on his shoulders. With a promise to return in good health, as Roman bid farewell to his family and prepared to embark on his journey, his mother, with a reassuring demeanor, turned to Roman Dimitry, Roman's father, and advised him not to fret excessively about their son. She sought to allay his concerns by explaining that Roman wasn't being deployed to the Western Front, the borders shared with the Kronos Empire. Instead, Roman had received orders to serve on the Southern Front, a posting deemed safer than the Western counterpart. With unwavering confidence, Roman's mother assured Dimitry that their son would return home unscathed, echoing the resilience that often accompanies a mother's steadfast belief in her child's well-being. Outside, the atmosphere changed as Roman assumed a leadership role. Addressing his soldiers with a tone of command, he urged them to move forward. It marked the commencement of their journey, a march into the unknown where duty and destiny intertwined. The narrative then shifted to the last stop before the Southern Front, and in serving as a temporary refuge for Roman and his troops. Their plan was to rest there until the break of dawn before resuming their march toward the designated front line. Amid the soldiers settling in, a disturbance caught Roman's attention. Investigating the source of the commotion, he found Kevin and Chris engaged in a heated exchange with Henry Albert, the eldest scion of the prestigious Albert family. Then the scene shifts to a few hours earlier. Roman reads a letter from central government where Benedict expressed concern for Roman's well-being, acknowledging his dedication to the kingdom. In a display of goodwill, Benedict had intervened to ensure Roman's assignment to the seemingly safer Southern Front, shielding him from the harsh conditions of a barren environment. Roman contemplated Benedict's actions, noting a pattern of consistent goodwill extended over the past few months. It became evident that the Marquess, at the helm of the aristocratic faction, was unwilling to lose Roman, recognizing his exceptional talent, especially in confronting the royal knights. Despite these efforts, Roman harbored doubts about the perceived safety of the Southern Front. Intelligence from Valhalla had painted a contrasting picture, describing it as a ticking time bomb waiting to detonate. Returning to the unfolding scene with Henry Albert, the narrative delved into the clash of social statuses. Henry, asserting his lineage as a descendant of one of Cairo's prestigious families, demanded the use of the inn. He questioned the audacity of individuals like Chris, deeming them lowlives to speak against someone of his elevated stature. In the midst of a heated conversation between Chris and Henry Albert, Roman entered the scene, seeking an explanation for the commotion. Chris quickly briefed him on the situation. Henry was demanding that Chris and others vacate the inn, asserting his desire to use the space. However, Chris firmly resisted, informing Henry that he had already booked the entire inn. Despite Chris's protests, Henry seemed unyielding. Roman, observing the audacity of House Albert, recognized a family clinging to former glory, perhaps ignorant of their waning prestige. Seeing an opportunity to address the situation, Roman stepped forward, questioning Henry's demand. He asked why he and his soldiers should leave, challenging the apparent entitlement displayed by House Albert. Henry, undeterred, inquired if Roman was the leader of the soldiers. Roman confirmed his leadership role, prompting Henry to issue a warning. He emphasized the potential consequences of upsetting him, reminding Roman that both of them were headed to the southern training camp. With an air of superiority, Henry granted Roman a mere 5 minutes to vacate his site. As Roman pondered the treatment of House Dimitry, a remote and less influential house, he made a resolute decision not to yield to Henry's demands. Preferring a direct resolution to the standoff, Roman drew his sword, a symbolic gesture challenging Henry to a duel. He proposed that if Henry could defeat him, he would willingly leave the inn. Henry, seemingly taken aback by the unexpected turn of events, prepared to attack Roman. However, before any swords clashed, Albert's soldiers intervened, restraining Henry. In a surprising twist, they began enlightening Henry about the formidable opponent he was dealing with. The soldiers painted a vivid picture of Roman's martial prowess, recounting how he had ascended to become the youngest ranker in history. They detailed his exploits in the war against Barco, highlighting how Roman had slain Baron Barco's eldest son in direct combat. The soldiers spoke of Roman as a relentless force on the battlefield, a figure devoid of both blood and tears. Henry, now confronted with the realization that he was dealing with a formidable adversary, froze in place. The soldiers warned him of the dire consequences that could unfold if he engaged in a duel with Roman. Their description painted Roman as a formidable warrior, a force to be reckoned with. As Henry grappled with this new information, he couldn't help but acknowledge the potential peril that lay ahead. In a swift change of tone, Henry admitted to having forgotten about a prior arrangement. Attempting to salvage his pride, he proposed that the issue at hand be considered resolved. Yet, beneath his outward acquiescence, Henry harbored a desire to find a way to punish Roman for what he perceived as disrespect toward House Albert. As Roman positioned himself directly in front of Henry, the abrupt proximity sent a shiver down Henry's spine. Overwhelmed by fear, Henry hastily retreated to the opposite side of the room. Observing this reaction, Roman couldn't help but muse that this might be the norm on the southern front. On that particular day, 3 similar incidents unfolded, each culminating in individuals hastily withdrawing upon hearing Roman's name, a testament to the reputation he had acquired. Inside the inn, Roman engaged in conversation with the innkeeper, seeking insights into the peculiar dynamics of the southern front. The innkeeper, a witness to such occurrences, explained that unlike the western front, the southern front presented no immediate peril. This region enjoyed a relatively amicable relationship with Hector, prompting the offspring of nobles, unable to evade conscription, to prefer the southern front, colloquially dubbed the resort. Here, training was lenient, devoid of life-threatening challenges, making it an ideal location for nobles to fulfill their national defense duty without exposing themselves to undue risks. As Roman examined a map, his thoughts delved into events that transpired precisely 48 days earlier when scouts from the kingdom of Hector crossed the border. Though they withdrew after confirming movements on the southern front, Hector's scouts continued their surveillance. Roman acknowledged the uncertainty surrounding Hector's intentions. Whether they were preparing for war remained unclear. However, even from the fragments of information gathered, Roman concluded that the current state of the southern front offered no sanctuary. A smirk played on Roman's lips as he contemplated the inevitability of war, detecting a familiar scent of blood lingering in the air. The narrative seamlessly transitioned to the following day, where Viscount Bael Frank assumed the role of commander overseeing the training of noble recruits in the southern training camp. Bael, a figure of authority, took the opportunity to introduce himself and outline the purpose of the southern training camp. Bael clarified that the southern training camp served as the foundational training ground for soldiers designated for the southern front. Following 3 weeks of rigorous training, all noble recruits would seamlessly integrate into a reserve corps, spending the remainder of their service on the southern front. This transition marked a critical juncture in their military journey. Addressing the assembled noble recruits, Bael delivered a stern directive, urging them to shed their preconceived notions of status upon entering the camp. In this egalitarian environment, everyone was simply a soldier, tasked with fulfilling their military service. Bael emphasized discipline, warning against any inclination to flout the established rules. The looming punishment for the soldiers was a deployment to the Western Front, Roman reflected, considering it a relatively lenient form of retribution. After this revelation, Viscount Bael Frank, the commander overseeing the training of noble recruits at the southern training camp, addressed the soldiers. He informed them that the evening would bring detailed information about the upcoming training schedule. For the time being, Bael encouraged the soldiers to settle into their designated quarters. Shortly afterward, one of the soldiers approached Roman, conveying the commander's request for a private conversation. Roman obliged, making his way to Bael's office. As he entered, Bael greeted him with a warm smile, inquiring about the comfort of Roman's journey to the south. Roman assured Bael that the trip had been without issues. As they settled into the discussion, Bael expressed his excitement upon learning that Roman would be joining the southern front. To Bael, Roman's presence, as Cairo's youngest ranker, symbolized the emergence of a hidden strength within the Dimitry house. Bael, eager to confirm certain details, cut to the chase. He directly asked Roman if it was true that Marquis Benedict had intervened to have Roman dispatched to the southern front. Roman confirmed the accuracy of this information, clarifying that while he hadn't sought Benedict's help, he had heard about it afterward. Bael, absorbing the implications, considered the significant investment Benedict seemed to be making in Roman's potential. Seizing an opportunity, Baek candidly expressed his intentions. He revealed his desire to leave a positive impression with Marquis Benedict, acknowledging the stark contrast between the southern training camp and the more opulent life of a central government member. Despite this, Baek pledged to do everything in his power to make Roman's stay in the southern training camp as comfortable as possible. In return for his efforts, Baek put forth a straightforward request. When Roman eventually met with Marquis Benedict, Baek wanted Roman to mention that Viscount Baek had played a pivotal role in making Roman's experience at the southern training camp more amenable. It was a direct appeal, a quid pro quo arrangement that aimed to foster connections and potentially open doors for both parties. Roman, considering the proposal, recognized the pragmatism in Baek's approach, as there is no reason to refuse what Baek is willing to give Roman. After Roman exited Baek's office, he encountered Henry, who wasted no time in accusing Roman of messing with the wrong person. Henry dropped a bombshell, revealing that Viscount Baek, the commander at the southern training camp, was his uncle. With a smirk, Henry suggested that Roman had made a grave mistake, insinuating that the consequences would be dire. In response to Henry's ominous words, Roman, unfazed, questioned what exactly Henry expected him to do with this newfound information. The nonchalant response only fueled Henry's anger. Without further ado, Henry stormed off, making a beeline for his uncle's office. In Viscount Baek's office, Henry breathlessly conveyed to his uncle that he felt threatened by someone in the camp. The words, "someone is threatening Henry," reached Baek's ears, igniting his protective instincts for his nephew. Fueled by concern and anger, Baek wasted no time in seeking out the alleged perpetrator. Expecting to confront a potential threat, Baek burst into the scene, ready to take decisive action. However, to his surprise, the supposed antagonist turned out to be none other than Roman Dimitry. The tension escalated when, in a sudden and shocking move, Baek slapped Henry right in front of Roman. The unexpected slap left Henry stunned, tears welling up in his eyes. For Henry, his uncle Baek had been a figure of trust and support since childhood. The sudden act of physical discipline from someone he cherished more than his own parents cut deep, leaving Henry bewildered and emotionally shaken. In the aftermath of the slap, Viscount Baek, recognizing Roman's significant potential and the favor he had received from Marquis Benedict, turned to Roman with an apology. Baek admitted that Henry's behavior required better guidance and education. Roman, displaying a surprising degree of magnanimity, assured Baek that he would let the matter go, acknowledging the Viscount's attempt to address the situation. As Viscount Baek and a visibly distressed Henry left the scene, Baek's anger shifted towards his nephew. Outside, Baek expressed his frustration with Henry, questioning the wisdom of opposing someone like Roman, who had clearly caught the attention of Marquis Benedict. Henry, still grappling with the shock of the slap, sought an explanation from his uncle. Baek, in a stern and fatherly manner, admonished Henry to grow up and act responsibly. He warned Henry that if he continued his reckless behavior in the camp, mirroring his conduct back at the Albert estate, Viscount Baek wouldn't be able to protect him from the consequences of his actions. Recognizing the potential animosity that might have developed between Roman and Henry after the recent incident, Baek decided to take a proactive approach. In a strategic move, he announced that henceforth, Henry would be partnered with Roman in all aspects, from training to the formation of the Reserve Corps. Baek, with a sense of urgency, instructed Henry to forge an amicable relationship with Roman, irrespective of the circumstances. In the complex dynamics of Viscount Baek's instructions, Henry found himself in a precarious position. Viscount Baek, his uncle and the commander at the southern training camp, made it explicitly clear that any defiance on Henry's part would result in his swift relocation to the dreaded Western Front. Meanwhile, Roman retreated to his room, a private quarter provided by Viscount Baek. Observing his surroundings, Roman acknowledged the Viscount's deliberate effort to accommodate him. Reflecting on the situation, Roman mused that individuals who openly disclose their ambitions are often easier to manipulate. Despite the potential challenges of life in the southern training camp, Roman remained optimistic about what lay ahead. The narrative then shifted to the heart of the training grounds, where an instructor named McBurney played a pivotal role as the general trainer. However, McBurney's journey to this role had been marked by a poignant tale of sacrifice and resilience. Just 3 years prior, McBurney stood as a veteran warrior actively engaged in the Western Front. Driven by unwavering loyalty to the kingdom, McBurney had volunteered for the Western Front, becoming a stalwart protector of Cairo through countless battles spanning a decade. Rising from humble origins, McBurney had ascended to the position of a commander leading 100 men. Yet, In a cruel twist of fate during a fierce battle to safeguard the Western Front, McBurney lost his right arm, the very limb that once skillfully wielded a sword. For McBurney, the pain wasn't solely physical but stemmed from the abrupt end of a life defined by warriorhood. In recognition of McBurney's past contributions, the Empire contemplated appointing him as a training instructor for the Southern Training Camp. Despite the emotional turmoil of leaving the battlefield, McBurney accepted the reality with the hope that he could continue safeguarding Cairo, even from the training grounds. However, the transition proved challenging. The Southern Training Camp's training system was, in McBurney's eyes, an absolute train wreck. While the Western Training Camp ensured uniform training for everyone, the nobles in the Southern Training Camp were exempted from such rigorous discipline. McBurney had meticulously devised a tight training system, starting with a 3-week basic training program. However, the effectiveness of this plan was compromised by the refusal of nobles, who held command over the soldiers, to partake in the training. This discrepancy frustrated McBurney, who grappled with the stark contrast and commitment between the two factions. The nobles, shielded from the rigors of training, seemed oblivious to the potential consequences this could have on their ability to lead effectively in the future. McBurney recognized the inherent flaw in a system that allowed such exemptions, jeopardizing the unity and preparedness of the entire Southern Training Camp. McBurney questioned the nobles' lack of commitment to training, frustrated by their casual demeanor on the front lines. As he walked by them, contemplating the meaning of their indifference, his exasperation grew. In the midst of the Southern Training Camp, McBurney, a seasoned leader, finds himself taken aback by a surprising sight. Roman, a noble, stands shoulder to shoulder with his soldiers, perfectly aligned with Roman Dimitry. The precision in their formation suggests a unity that catches McBurney off guard. As he observes the troops, he notices a commanding figure leading them, bringing forth questions about the soldiers' awareness of the unique practices of the Southern Training Camp. Approaching Roman, McBurney decides to share some insight into the camp's ethos. He informs Roman that nobles are not compelled to partake in training and suggests that if Roman desires respite, he can find shade and observe the training from a distance like others have chosen to do. Roman, curious about the motivation behind McBurney's advice, inquires if it stems from the influence of other nobles. McBurney candidly admits that Roman's suspicion is correct. Other nobles, unfamiliar with the demands of the Southern Training Camp, often choose to abstain from the physical rigors of training. This revelation prompts Roman to delve into a broader perspective. He emphasizes that on the battlefield, adversaries do not discriminate based on status. Roman articulates the necessity for commanders to possess stamina to navigate diverse terrains such as mountains, rivers, and swamps. He argues that for a commander to fulfill their role effectively, it is imperative to partake in the same training as their soldiers. Roman's perspective resonates with McBurney, who is impressed by the nobles' understanding of the purpose behind the training. Roman points out that the Southern Training Camp's regimen serves not only to gauge the strength of the soldiers but also as a conduit for the transfer of invaluable experience. The training, according to Roman, is a holistic process designed to equip soldiers with the skills necessary for any battlefield scenario. The realization dawns on McBurney that Roman possesses a genuine commitment to understanding the challenges faced by his soldiers. In response, Roman urges McBurney not to wear a fake smile in his presence, assuring him that he is willing to undergo any form of training, transcending the constraints of his noble status. This declaration surprises McBurney, who, for the first time, encounters a noble willing to devote himself wholeheartedly to the training regimen. McBurney, initially considering compromises to accommodate the nobles, reconsiders his approach. He resolves to uphold the standards of the Southern Training Camp without dilution. Returning to the stage, McBurney contemplates the upcoming 3 weeks with a renewed sense of determination. He decides to give his best effort, acknowledging the rare commitment displayed by Roman and recognizing the significance of this unique convergence of nobility and common soldiers. Taking center stage once more, McBurney addresses the assembled troops. He declares the commencement of the first week of physical training. McBurney's pivotal decision marked the commencement of an arduous training regimen often dubbed training hell. The primary objective of this rigorous training was clear: to equip individuals with the skills needed to navigate the unpredictable and relentless nature of the war zone, emphasizing the crucial ability to move swiftly in any circumstance. Gathering the soldiers, McBurney laid down a non-negotiable rule: regardless of the weather, they would ascend a mountain every single day as part of their training routine. This announcement was met with astonishment from the other soldiers, who were taken aback by the evident strength and capabilities displayed by Roman and his troops. During the rigorous training sessions, McBurney passionately conveyed the idea that warfare extends beyond the physical realm. It is also a psychological battle with an uncertain duration. Soldiers were subjected to relentless swinging exercises without a specified quota, pushing them to surpass their perceived limits. In an emphatic tone, McBurney made it clear that those who gave up midway would have their training extended, even if it meant sacrificing precious sleep. As the grueling training sessions unfolded, a palpable sense of exhaustion settled among the soldiers. Seeking relief, some soldiers cooled off in the nearby river. In a candid exchange, one soldier remarked that he could have tackled the day's training more efficiently if he had the extensive preparation time seemingly enjoyed by Roman and his soldiers. Henderson, overhearing this conversation, interjected with a probing question about the soldier's training background. The soldier admitted to having trained for barely a year, acknowledging the expected disparity in proficiency compared to Roman and his soldiers, who had undergone years of training. Henderson, however, corrected the soldier's assumption, revealing that Roman soldiers had only been training for 3 months. With a serious expression, Henderson addressed the soldier's misconception, asserting that Roman soldiers had achieved remarkable progress within a short time frame. He went on to emphasize that the soldier's struggles were not a result of inadequate preparation but stemmed from a failure to give his best effort, plain and simple.